Hello, Georgetown. I'm Beverly Enos, and this is Spotlight Georgetown. You can find us on your cable TV station Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. As part of this cable process, if you're interested in being in the hot seat over here and being interviewed, let me know if you have something to share with the town. If you'd like to learn how to run the cameras or work with the equipment behind the scenes, please let us know. We've got all this fancy stuff, and it's a wonderful little playground in there if you're interested in that type of thing. Now, today we're going to be talking to Dan Meader, who has Meaders General Store.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Nice to have you here on the show.
Thank you.
And one of the reasons that I asked you to come in was because your store probably has, you have more history or no more history because of
My
who
family's
you are,
been here a long time.
Right, because of who you are in town. But your store also has so much history in it. People go in and they think it's all new store things. But when you look around, there's all of a sudden there's a sign that used to be on Town Hall, and there's a sign that used to be someplace else.
Yeah, I have a lot of the original fixtures that were around town
Yeah,
through the years.
it's really a neat place to go and roam around. Now, how long have you been in town, and what is some of your family history?
Well, my first well, it depends on which side of the family you're talking about. On my mother's side, I'm 11th generation. On my father's side,
that's the Tid side.
That's the Tids and
Okay.
the McGills. The McGills settled Rowley with Reverend Rogers. Back in 1639. So they started in 1639. Actually, they used to farm their animals here in what is now Georgetown. That was New Rowley. But he actually had pens near the brook, and he kept all his animals down there. So,
Okay.
so
And
that's
on
why
the
they call it
other
Pembroke.
side?
And on the other side, on the Meader side, I'm fifth generation. Fifth generation. My great-great-grandmother, Susan Meader, married Captain Gilman Purley, who lived down on Elm Street at the foot of the street where you lead
Purley
into
from the Purley School, Purley?
No, that was John Purley, but it's
did-
all they're all the
same
same
family,
tribe, yeah, all
right.
the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have lots of different tribes in town, and they're all
Yeah, so
quite often they do intermarry.
and that's the problem. There's a lot of relatives. You got to make sure who you marry.
When we first moved to Georgetown, we're standing in the line of someplace, and I was talking to my mom. I was just a little kid, and it's like, just everybody in Georgetown is related to somebody else.
You got to be very
They're
careful.
related everywhere.
Yeah. Well, one way or another, all the old timers in town have some kind of connections. You know,
Yeah.
if you look back in the history of the town, it's the same names pop up all through the generations, right up to today. And some are disguised just because of marriage, but it's still the same tribe as you come down through the line. So the McGills and the Meaders and the Tids and the Buckminsters, Purleys, we're all interconnected one way or another.
When I first became moderator, I had the opportunity, my dad actually has had a collection of town reports, and people had given him different ones, and I have them going back to the 1600s.
Well, that would be Rowley.
And
Yeah.
they were Rowley,
Yeah,
and then more from the 1800s,
Yeah.
and the names are the same.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's
Yeah,
the same thing.
because
It's the
town
same people running
right,
the town also.
right.
There's a lot of the
We
same.
used to have a poor farm.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah.
That was
yeah,
here, and
yeah,
37
that all had to be
cents.
voted on. That's right.
Right.
That was all part of your taxes and
Right.
everything.
And-
That was a big problem because Georgetown was originally part of Rowley, which was a number of different towns, and there was a lot of fights along the way. A lot of people want one of my great grandfather's relatives, David McGill, wrote the petition against incorporation of Georgetown. Actually, so there was a lot of for, there was a lot against. My great grandfather signed both petitions for it and against it, so that he was covered both sides. So the family, there's always been battles within my family on each side of different issues in the same time. It's very difficult.
Now, bringing the generations a little bit closer, I knew your
Frankie, that was my Uncle Frankie,
Your
my
Uncle
father's
Frank?
brother. Yeah, there were 4 brothers and 1 sister. There was Uncle Willie was the town clerk in Georgetown from the 50s to
He
the
was
70s.
the town clerk when I was.
Yeah. Oh, he worked. He loved the job. He absolutely loved
did.
it. He was in the
was great.
Union Block where I have my store now. He was on the end of the block, and he
That's
would
where
get
Town
there.
Hall used to be.
Oh yeah. He was there. He'd show up to work about 6 to 6:30 in the morning because that was the only time you could get any work done. By 9 o'clock, forget it. The whole place would be mobbed. He couldn't get anything done. So, and he'd be open on Saturday, no pay. He just loved the job.
Yeah.
He was there.
Yeah,
As kids, we were always there.
If you wanted to see people or do anything,
You'd go
if you
down.
didn't go to the town dump on Saturday or
Saturday
Sunday,
morning, yeah.
you went down to
Town hall.
Town Hall, to the town clerk's
Yeah,
office, because
Ken-
Willie was there and knew everything.
Oh, believe it. Yeah, if you had anything going on in town, he knew about it. He'd be selling the tickets for every single event. He knew all the scuttlebutt. He loved to gossip. He was quite a character.
Yeah,
I
he
miss him a
was.
lot. He
He
died
was.
in 1985. He was he loved the town. All the Meader brothers did. They really loved this town, and they put a lot into it in every aspect.
Now, so it's Meaders and Tids
Mm-hmm.
for you personally.
Yeah.
And when you were talking about the Union Block.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that is, right now, that starts at the Georgetown Savings Bank,
Right.
and it ends at the insurance company.
Right. So it goes basically from where the Georgetown Savings Bank is right now,
Right.
to Park Street. It's that
Park
whole
Street.
block. A block is considered a group of businesses within one structure.
And it wasn't the original center of town, but it's been the center of town for many, many, many years.
It goes way, way, way back to the
Right.
1830s. It was really it was called the corner. You know, it was that corner down to Elm Street was another corner, and then Lovering's corner was over South Georgetown. So there was a number of different corners. Central Street came into play a little bit later. Where we are right now, where this is being filmed, I just thought maybe people might not really understand what this was all about. Originally, what stood here in 1832, the Universalist Church was built here, and in the 1850s, like 1855, the town decided that they would buy this parcel of property, move the Universalist Church over to Central Street. It's like number 21, 19 to 21. It's where the Metcalfs lived for years and years and years, for like 100 years.
Okay.
It's the house that has the cupola on top. That was originally the Universalist Church.
This is on Central Street.
Yep, it's right across from where we are right now. They remodeled it into a home. And so that was here till about 1855. That's when they built the first townhouse. That was a big deal for Georgetown. So they used it for a high school, and they used it for the town meetings, that kind of thing. It had a belfry, and actually the shot that I brought of the common where the Civil War monument is today, that was taken from the belfry. So you're looking down from
Okay.
there. So later on, they took off the belfry. It had been hit by lightning a couple times, and it leaked and stuff. So they put a new slate roof on and changed it. And then this place burnt down through a chimney fire, and I think it was either 1899 or 1888, something like it. It was towards the end of the year. So then, in 1905, they decided that it was time for a central school to get rid of all of the one-room schoolhouses throughout the town, make it more centralized. So that's the structure that we have today. It was built in 1905 by a company in Groveland. Actually, my great-grandfather's brother bid on the contract, and he didn't get it. Elmer Tidd. He didn't. That was bad. He was just under 20,000, and it built for 20,000. That's what it contracted.
So when you come into the town hall now, you look at it and say, well, this reminds me of like school that I went to school with.
Right,
You know,
right.
there's classrooms, 4 rooms to a
Yeah,
floor.
yeah.
and
I went 4th and 5th grade here.
In
Actually, a
all
lot
three.
of people might think it was a library also because it's on Library Street, and people don't understand. It's like, well, there's no library on Library Street, there's no school on School Street, there's no mill
But
on
there
Mill Street.
used to
But
be.
every single one of these places has a reason why they call that. So
They used to be a library on
yeah, it's
Library
down where the
Street.
back of the parking lot was. George Peabody donated the funds for a library, and there was a library hall. My father used to they used to have silent movies there and talkies there, and my father used to collect the money for the people to go see the movies back there. But it was a terrible spot because it was a bog, you know, it was a peat
Yeah,
bog.
it's-
So it's really wet, so a terrible place for a library.
Yeah.
Too much mold for books.
Yeah. But, so the town hall was a school, and then
Yes.
of course it became
Yeah,
a
right
town
up through
hall.
the 70s. Right up through, actually, when my Uncle Willie, as town clerk, when he retired, when he knew that they were moving over here, he said, that's it, I'm done. You know, he didn't want to go through the hustle of moving every single thing over.
those
Yeah,
fires.
he had it was too far from home. He never drove, so he could walk back and forth to work wicked easy. So he loved, and that was
And
right
this
in the
was a
middle
little
of
too
town.
far. That's an extra 2 blocks.
Well, yeah, he wanted to be in the square. They grew up over on Central Street, right in the square, and when they bought the house down at 60 East Main Street, that was too far for him. He wanted to be right where the action was.
Yeah.
This was the place to be.
So now you have a store in part of the Union Block.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Well, obviously I grew up here and everything, and I was in the antiques business my whole life. My parents were collectors, that kind of thing. So I worked for the Settlers over at Settlers Antique Village for probably about 15 years. As a kid, when I started when they first opened, I helped them move from the old Oddfellows Hall in the square when they had a shop over there down to Rona's. So that kind of, I just stayed with the antiques business, and I've done that my entire life through college and everything. And it just kind of evolved into what I do today because the antiques market has changed with the advent of the computer and everything. So I tried to be more widely impacted throughout the town. Antiques are more of a specific type of clientele.
Right.
So the general store that I operate now has a little bit of this, a little bit of that. You never know what you'll find in there. And I try to make it a fun, happy place where people can come forget about their problems and find something that you won't find at some, big box store, that kind of thing.
I mean, there are days that I've been down there where I walk in the morning, the music is on outside,
Yes.
and that there has to be a reason that you put the music on
Well,
outside.
thanks to the Georgetown Music Department at the Georgetown Schools, Mrs. Hayden, Mr. Norris, and Mr. Dossey, I grew really an affinity for fine music, and I was in the band my whole career through school and everything. And I really, really loved it and enjoyed it. And they taught us different aspects of different types of music. And I used to listen to all the different types and different eras. So the things that you hear are things that I personally like. So I try, there's nothing.
It's mixed up.
Yeah, it's not obnoxious, in any regard. It's just fun, and hey, I haven't heard that song for 100 years, that kind of thing. So it makes people happy,
And in the nice weather, you can actually sit out there and play
I have all the
chess or
games.
checkers.
Yeah, all the classic games are set up outside. So the kids, adults, everybody. Sometimes it'll be mobbed. Other times you'll just see a couple of people out there. But when it's nice weather, I try to have it so it's an inviting atmosphere. You can come down and just relax, watch the world go by.
Yeah.
That's
I've
how
I've
Georgetown
actually
always
taken
was.
advantage of that a couple of times, and it's been fun. Now, Union Building.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to look at the Union Building for a little bit. That is that block that we were talking about from,
Right.
from the
Well,
bank to the
that
Park
goes
Street.
right to Park Street. And that has quite a history before it was built, and there's a reason why it is there today. And Georgetown's pretty famous for their horrific fires. We've had a lot of catastrophes within the town, right up to recently. So it's not a new issue. It started when Georgetown started. So in the 1870s, there was a large fire there, but then there was a real horrific fire in 1885, right in the square. It was Christmas night, 1885.
Wow.
And yeah, it was a very cold. People are just getting over the merriment of Christmas. There was stables that were attached to the Pentucket House, which was actually behind where the Union Block is today. It's sort of the parking lot of the savings bank. There were stables that were connected to that. So around 2 in the morning, a couple of guys were putting their horses in the stables, and they noticed the smoke and the fire coming from. There's 3 different, hopefully you'll see them, different blocks that are basically we're talking about, plus the Tenney's house. So on the corner in the square, basically towards the Georgetown Savings Bank end, there was what was called Masonic Block. Mm-hmm. And there was a number of stores on the basement, first floor, and then on the top floor was the temple. Then the next block over was the Adams Block, which was again a number of stores. And there was also some shoemaking, I think, going on there. The next building over, basically where the flat area is, where Ingraham's and Tidd's apartment house was.
That
It's an
open
apartment, it's condos now. That open lot, there was a huge shoe factory there. That was the Tenney shoe factory. The A.B. Noyes also had half of that building. And next to that was a beautiful earlier Victorian home. That's what is there now. So this is what we're talking about, is the fire. The fire raged. It started in the Adams Block, which, if you look at the photographs, would be the second building from the square. The fire was on the second floor. A number of the firefighters, they came from all over town. It's not like the Georgetown Fire Department is today. They were spaced all throughout town. So they came from all over. And there was enough time so that some of the merchants could get a few things out of their belongings. So they were trying to resurrect some of their items that were important, money or whatever it might be. And as this was happening, one of the firemen happened to work for Moses Boardman, which is the precursor to what we have for a grocery store here today in Georgetown. They were the owners of that originally. And one of the men that worked there went and rescued a few things. He went back to his piece of equipment for the fire department, was at the play pipe. All of a sudden, a huge explosion on the second floor of the Adams Block. It was horrific. Terrible explosion. The Boardmans kept a little gunpowder up on the second floor. And there was a huge explosion. The sides of the Adams Block were made of brick, and a portion of that fell on 2 firefighters. They were killed instantly. Then a number of people were seriously injured throughout because of the flying debris, the bricking, everything. So it was really a horrific accident. A third firefighter, the 2 firefighters that died instantly, one was by the name of Ilsley, one was a Chase, and then a third firefighter, he was a Clark. He passed away a couple of weeks later. Dr. Root had to actually amputate his leg at the scene. I mean, it was really, really a horrific night. So it's really the worst fire Georgetown's ever had.
But every time we have these fires, they build the city back up. They build the town back up.
And
they
usually,
build the buildings.
And as you know, Georgetown is kind of a reactive town. Mm-hmm. So usually that's when we get new fire apparatus. So that's how it's been since day one, okay?
Yeah.
And that, if you go through any of the records, Rusty Rickett could tell you over at the Central, he could show you the records, and you'll see when Georgetown would appropriate monies. That would usually be after a catastrophe.
After a big fire.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, the fire spread throughout all of those blocks, and it was a disaster. It was a really, really mournful time within the confines of the town and elsewhere, because Haverhill had to come. A lot of Haverhill people were injured. Newburyport had to come, and it was really a tragedy, really horrific tragedy. So after that, the town regrouped. And they said, we're really going to come together here. We're not going to give up on our square here, and we're really going to come back. So they created, basically you could buy stock. and I have some of the stocks, and you could buy stock in the Union Block, and that's what they were trying to build, so you could actually own a piece of it. And that's how the building came to be. So the Masonic Temple is upstairs in that, and all through the ages, it was built. I think they actually dedicated it on the 1-year anniversary of the fire, the temple. I think they actually rededicated it. That 1-year anniversary. So it's been businesses downstairs ever since, and the temple has been up there ever since day one.
There used to be the Boardman's grocery store was
there. Oh yeah,
there.
that's in where I am
the
today.
grocery store was.
Yep.
Town Hall was there.
Cressy's
used to be there.
Rossios.
And
Pingree
then
have been there
through
for a
the
long time.
years, everybody has kind of moved out and done satellites into different areas.
That's how Central Street is what it is today. Street was just a residential street with St. Mary's Church was over there, and just regular homes. And then it was an offshoot of the
fence
square.
around the outside.
Oh yeah.
When I moved to Georgetown, that was all still here.
Boardman's
was still here, and St. Mary's was still down
Oh
there.
yeah,
and
yeah.
Things
Well,
have
that's
changed.
one thing about Georgetown, and it's a constantly evolving town, and it's always been a nice town from day one. So it's a nice place to have grown up and a nice place to be a part of.
Now we're going into the store, into your store. When you walk in, you don't know where to look first.
Well, that's a good thing, I think.
It is. It's wonderful. There are 2 or 3 doors to enter, but if you enter on the one to the furthest right and you come in, and there's a counter, and you say, okay, this is the counter of the general store, and you look up, and there's a big sign there. And that came from?
That originally, actually, that one, it says American Legion, the one that's directly in front of you. That actually hung on the Union Building. I acquired that a couple of years ago. Somebody offered it to me.
Yeah.
And that actually hung because the Legion actually had their offices. There was a side door on the Union Block at one time towards where the bank is now. And they would access that to get upstairs, and they had their Legion Hall was up there. And then they moved later on down to further down East Main Street.
Now, when you go in to do shopping, huge children's room with Melissa and Dave.
Doug.
Doug.
Melissa and Doug, yeah.
All handmade.
And wooden toys. They really do a quality
just
product
the best quality
that's
of
really,
anything
really
that you can
reasonable.
ever find. You have clothing that's made locally.
I have stuff. I have a couple of different types of sweaters that are made right here in Massachusetts, and so I try to have things that obviously a lot of the stuff has to be made over in China just because of the way things are today. But I also carry a line of American-made products, so I try to have enough of a variety so it'll be different price points for people so that they don't feel like they have to come in and spend a lot of money. The Melissa and Doug toys, for instance, they start at $2.99. So you can really get a nice gift that you won't find being thrown away the next day after your kid opens
Almost
it.
every time I've been in there, I've seen someone come in and go for one of the puzzles. And
Oh,
go,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
somebody's going to a birthday party.
Yeah, Saturday mornings, usually people are in a hurry and they come in and they'll grab something quick for a birthday
I bring my granddaughter in. That's one of her favorite places to get puzzles and get the little car.
Oh yeah, the trains.
The trains.
The trains, yeah. I sell all the
put
pieces
together.
and the parts. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
You also have baskets and jewelry and
Right.
I mean,
I have
it changes seasonally.
Right. I have things that are for different types of the year, so whether it's Halloween or Christmas or Easter or Mother's Day, I try to have something that would be incorporating into whatever the atmosphere needs.
Yeah. A few antiques thrown in.
Yeah, I do have some antiques, and I still am in the antiques business, and I do that. On the weekends I do shows and that type of thing. I also have locally made things. My wife is a jeweler, and she actually gives me some of the jewelry that she makes and acquires and things like that, so that I have a nice little variety of stuff that would be for any kind of occasion.
Yeah, and to go in there and it's like, okay, I need something that's different. If you
Well,
want
that's
different,
the place to go.
You're going to find it.
That's right. I try to have.
You're going to find it.
It's not. I really work hard at the things that I try to acquire. It's not. I don't have like one catalog. I open. I'll take this. I really have a number of different spots where I have to order. And it's a complex, but I enjoy it. Business. It's very, very complex trying to get the stuff in the first place.
Now, if you were to say that the atmosphere when you walk in, what year would it be? What century?
Well, Fred Andrews used to have his store where I have my counters set up where a lot of the penny candy and that type of stuff is from 1906 when he had his store in there. It was a general store as well. And it looks pretty much the same. So you could say
late
a lot.
18, early,
yeah, probably
early
turn of the
1900s,
century. That's
turn
my
of the
favorite
century.
time. I'm a historian myself, amateurish. But that's my favorite era because there was so many changes going on. That was the advent of electricity in the motor cars, and it was the changing of the guard basically from horses to automobiles. It's exciting. It was an exciting time to be, I think, around. Maybe not if you lived it, but for me it did.
Now, you sell price ranges, so you sell everything from penny candy.
Right.
That's
so you
really
can get
a penny.
something that, well, it's 2 cents.
2 cents, okay.
That's
It's
the
still
cheapest I
pennies.
can. Well, I tried the
Right,
best I
it's
can.
not nickels, it's
No,
pennies.
Yeah. No, I do have stuff that goes from that right up. Some of the sweaters that I have imported from Ireland, those are a little more expensive, obviously. And I have a couple of lines, like I have Stife Animals, and those are a little more pricey because they're made of mohair. They're imported from Germany, and they're more of a collectible type of thing. So I do have some things that are a little bit more pricier, but in comparison to other stores, they're still cheaper. It's just the quality. I try to have things that, like I said, I don't like a lot of plastic, and I don't like things that kids get and you have to throw it away right as soon as you get it. It's a piece of junk, So I try to have a little bit.
But you have a lot of little fun stuff that if you take kids in, that they can just, for really low money.
Yeah,
buy
there's
a
little
game
tops
or
or
a
things like
mask or
that.
tops.
Yeah, they're little games that are inexpensive, and
Little
a lot of
treasures.
those. Yeah, and the kids really enjoy it. They come in and they'll have a blast. And it's just about every single day a kid will leave screaming because they really don't want to leave. They'll come in, and it's like almost every day that happens, and nobody cares. We don't care. As long as they're having fun. I try to have it I try to have almost one of everything open so that the kids can actually play with it. To get them involved and see how good it is.
So they can see.
Fun.
Now, some of the other signs that are in there. In fact, the last time I was there, you had a sign outside that you had just been
Oh,
given,
I just
and you were
picked
just
it up.
cleaning
Yeah,
it up. And
it was I just acquired. I get stuff all the time. People know that I collect local history, and this was the C.S. Marston Incorporated sign that actually hung on Marston's Shoe Shop, which is on Park Street, where Harold Rhoda has his business. And this was the original sign that actually hung on that building. So it just came back to Georgetown. It was up in Meredith, New Hampshire. So it's back in town where it belongs. So I have that, and I just acquired a number of. It's a constant process. I actually just acquired the original blueprints for Little's Block, which was the building, where the Elite Gift Shop was, the
Really?
karate studio. There was a beautiful Victorian there, and I just got the original blueprints for the building, when they built it. So things are still out there, and they're lost, but I have so many connections throughout the antiques business. They know what my likes are, and they search things out for me, and
So
there's always a treasure out there.
if somebody finds a treasure in their attic or their basement, call you.
Oh, definitely, because I'm a preservationist. I'm the president of the Haverhill Historical Society and the Buttonwoods Museum, and I really, really, love history. That's one of my favorite things. So, and just being connected with the town and being a part of it for so many years, my family, it's been passed down from the Meader side through my father, who was the town historian, and from the Tidd side, my grandmother Nat Tidd and my grandfather Albert Tidd. They were into history, and a lot of things got passed down through multiple generations. So it's a nice hobby.
When you walk into the store, you really feel like you're taking a trip back in time.
Yep, that's part of my. When you walk in there, it's basically everything that goes on in my mind. So I'm a little nuts. What can I say? I just I like the music. I like the variety. I have an odd sense of humor, so you'll find some things in there that have a very odd
got some
take.
funky stuff.
Yeah, so I try to if you don't enjoy life,
I mean, I've seen things in there that are throwbacks to some of the old 50s television shows.
Oh yeah.
And,
Yep.
just
Actually,
weird little things and cards that you would never find other places, playing cards and
Well, now
weird
that
stuff.
you mentioned the television, I actually have the 6th television in there that was in the town of Georgetown. My father bought back in 1948. After he got out of the war, he saved up his money and he bought this television. I have the original bill of sale. It cost a fortune. And it was the 6th television in Georgetown. And that was a huge deal. That was a big deal.
That was a big deal.
That was a big deal.
All
so
the
that's
neighbors
actually
must have come and watched TV.
Oh, jeez, yeah. My grandmother, my father's mother, had the front middle seat, and that was her seit, and nobody got near that.
the screen was this big.
It is. You can see it in there. It is literally that big.
Yeah.
So I try to, it's not that I want to live in the past, but I appreciate the quality and the things that people had to go through to get where we are today.
Well, it's a fun place to visit.
Thank you.
And every time I go in, I find something that I've never seen before.
Yeah, we try to
And
have.
it really is.
variety.
It really is great. And thank you so much for
Well,
sharing.
thank you for having me.
Thank you for sharing
All right, thank
everything
you.
with us. So if you want to combine a trip through history and some shopping, the nice weather, sit outside and play checkers, Meaders is the place to go. So always think about that. I'm Beverly Enos. This is Spotlight Georgetown. Thank you for joining us. Bye for now.